Those who enter human territory never return the same, if they return at all. The words were etched in the mind of Captain Thrykall, commander of the Vorthen scout vessel Chrysanth. It was a saying whispered in alien markets, passed between smugglers, and spoken in low voices by soldiers who claimed to know someone who went there. Thrykall never believed it. He had heard similar tales about other species warnings wrapped in mystery, designed to keep outsiders away. But this time, it was different. This mission was personal. Somewhere, deep inside the space claimed by humans, was a person he once knew, an engineer named Mara Vance. She wasn't just an acquaintance. She had been his closest friend during his training years at the Galactic Academy, when humans and Vorthens still had cautious, limited contact. Mara was different from other humans. She didn't look at him as an alien curiosity, but as a person. They used to meet after classes, swapping stories about their homeworlds, laughing over strange cultural habits, and debating the galaxy's politics. Then, one day, she was gone. The official report said she had been reassigned back to Earth for critical projects. The unofficial truth was that she had vanished into human territory, somewhere even her old friends couldn't reach. Thrykall had tried sending messages. Nothing came back. He didn't even know if she received them. And yet, he still thought about her dot when the Chrysanth was ordered to patrol near the human frontier. He knew it was his one chance. The crew believed they were only mapping anomalies, but Thrykall's true goal was simpler: find Mara, or at least find out if she was still alive. They crossed the invisible border without ceremony. One moment, the stars looked the same. Next, the ship's navigation console flickered. Coordinates scrambled, readings shifted. It wasn't hostile, just disorienting, like the universe itself was trying to confuse them. The crew grew uneasy. The Vorthen helmsman muttered that he could feel a weight in the air, even though air was meaningless in space. But Thryshield pushed them on. Then, in the shadow of a massive asteroid, they found it a small human vessel drifting slowly. The ship looked damaged but alive. Its hull bore scars from energy weapons, its lights dim. No distress signal, no response. To hails. Against the warnings of his first officer, Thrykall ordered a boarding. The airlock hissed as they stepped inside. The atmosphere smelled faintly metallic. Lights flickered in the corridor. Every footstep echoed too loudly, as though the ship itself was listening. They moved through empty rooms until they reached the control deck. That was when a voice spoke. From the shadows, I didn't think I'd see a Vorthen face again. Thrykall froze. He knew that voice. Mara stepped forward. She looked older, her hair longer, her eyes sharper, but she was unmistakable. She wore a human naval jacket, but the insignia was strange, something he didn't recognize. Mara. His voice was softer than he intended. I've been trying to reach you for years. She smiled faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. I know. They talked in quiet tones. She didn't explain much, only that she was working on something important, something she couldn't leave. She avoided details, deflected questions, but there was warmth in her voice when she asked about his life. The conversation felt like walking through a dream, familiar and distant all at once. Finally, she said, You shouldn't be here, 3. Human space changes people, sometimes in ways they don't want. I came because I needed to see you, he admitted. I needed to know you were okay. She looked at him for a long moment. I'm alive. That's all I can say. And I'm glad you came. But you have to go now. When he returned to the Chrysanth, his first officer asked no questions. They left the drifting human vessel behind, but Thrykall couldn't shake the feeling that their meeting had been arranged, as though Mara had let him find her just long enough to say goodbye. The journey back toward the border felt slower. The crew seemed restless, glancing at the view screens as if expecting something to appear. One night, unable to sleep, Thrykol found himself looking out at the stars. He thought about Mara's words about change, about why so many never returned. From human space, it wasn't just danger. It was something deeper, something about humans that left a mark on those who met them. When they finally crossed back into neutral space, Thrykol felt both relief and loss. He had found what he was looking for, yet it didn't feel like enough. He had no answers, only the memory of her voice, and the quiet hope that maybe, someday, their paths would cross again. As he filed his mission report, he found himself writing a single line at the end, one he had once thought was superstition. Those who enter human territory never return the same if they return at all. And now, he understood why the Chrysanth was back in neutral space. But Thrykol's thoughts had not left human territory. He sat in his private quarters, staring at a small hollow image he had carried for years. It showed him and Mara back at the academy, laughing, leaning over a table piled with datapads, caught in some long-forgotten joke. He had looked at this picture many times before, but now it felt different. He had seen her again. She was alive, but she was far away, both in space and in something else he couldn't name. He didn't understand why she couldn't just come back, why she had to be so vague. And the way she looked at him, warm but guarded, made it clear there were things she couldn't say. Thrykol didn't like feeling helpless, but right now he did. He didn't know how to reconnect with her. Every message he sent into human space might never reach her. Every plan he imagined fell apart when he thought about those unmapped, dangerous regions. Still, he couldn't let it end here. The next few days, the crew of the Chrysanth kept busy with routine patrol reports. But strange things began to happen. First, the ship's communications officer, Huron, complained of vivid dreams. In them, she saw enormous human cities towering over oceans, lit with colors she couldn't name. She heard music fast and alive, and crowds chanting words in a language she somehow understood. Then, the navigator, Korol, began working twice as fast as before. He said he felt clearer, as though he could see routes and solutions instantly. When asked where this sudden clarity came from, he only shrugged and said, "It's like I've been shown something." Even Thrykol wasn't untouched. He found himself remembering details of his conversation with Mara that he was sure hadn't happened, or maybe they had, and he had simply forgotten them until now. He heard her voice sometimes, not in his ears, but in his mind. "You've seen what's coming. Choose your side wisely." One evening, Thrykol went to the observation deck alone. The galaxy stretched before him, black and endless, sprinkled with stars. Somewhere out there, Mara was working on something she couldn't talk about. He wondered if she ever thought about him too, or if she had already accepted that they lived in separate worlds. His mind drifted to the old academy days again. Back then, reconnecting was simple. If he and Mara had an argument or drifted apart, they could just meet in the mess hall, sit down, and talk until everything was fixed. Now, the distance between them wasn't just physical. It was wrapped in politics, secrecy, and whatever strange influence human space had on outsiders. He didn't know how to reach her. And yet, the hope remained. The crew noticed Thrykol's distraction. His first officer, Ryla, approached him after a briefing. "You're thinking about that human again," she said softly, careful to keep it between them. Thrykol didn't deny it. "She's my friend, and I don't even know if I'll ever see her again." Ryla studied him for a moment. "Maybe it's not about seeing her again. Maybe it's about being ready for when you do. Humans, they change people. Maybe they changed you too." He thought about that for a long time, A week later, the Chrysanth's sensors picked up something odd. A human probe, small, unmanned, was drifting just outside neutral space. Its hull was intact, its power system still active, but it carried no transponder codes. The crew debated whether to bring it aboard. Thrykol made the call himself. They would. Inside the probe, they found data modules encrypted with human military ciphers. It would take weeks to decode them. But in the corner of the probe's storage bay was something else, a small, sealed box with his name on it. No one could explain it. No one could guess how it got there. THRY single quotes. Cal opened it carefully. Inside was a single holochip. When he activated it, Mara's face appeared. Her image flickered slightly, but her voice was clear. 3, I don't have much time. If you're seeing this, then you found one of our message drops. I can't say where I am, and I can't leave, but I want you to know I haven't forgotten. I still remember those days at the academy. I still remember you. I know you're wondering why I can't explain things. It's because this isn't just about me. It's about all of us. Human space is different. It changes you. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not. But we're preparing for something big. Something that will touch every world. I don't know when I'll see you again. But if you choose to step back into human territory one day, you'll understand. She hesitated, then smiled genuine, this time. Until then, stay safe, my friend. The holo faded. Thrykol sat in silence for a long time, the crew waiting for his reaction. He didn't have all the answers. He still didn't know how to truly reconnect with Mara, but now he knew one thing she wanted him to. She hadn't closed the door, and that was enough to keep hope alive. He placed the holochip carefully back in its case and locked it in his desk. One day, when the holo message from Mara stayed in Thrykol's mind like a bright ember, warm but untouchable. She was alive. She remembered him. She wanted him to return one day. But she had also said something else, something he couldn't stop thinking about. Human space changes you. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not. What did that mean? And had it already happened to him? In the days after they recovered the human probe, Thrykol began to notice small differences in himself. He was thinking faster during navigation meetings, spotting solutions before the crew had even finished explaining problems. Sometimes he dreamed of human places he had never seen, giant cities filled with light, narrow streets lined with music, and skies painted in colors his mind struggled to name. Other times he dreamed of Mara's voice. Not just her words, but the tone calm, certain, almost like she was guiding him somewhere. He didn't tell anyone about these dreams, but he didn't have to. The crew was changing too. The communications officer, Yurin, who had once been shy and hesitant, now spoke with new confidence during negotiations. The navigator, Coral, had developed an uncanny instinct for reading spatial anomalies, something that usually took years of training. Even Ryla, his cautious first officer, seemed more open to risks, as though a quiet bravery had taken root in her. Thrykol began to wonder if this was the change Mara had mentioned. It wasn't dangerous, at least not yet. But it was different, it felt like. An awakening. One evening, Thrykol sat in his quarters, staring at the sealed holochip Mara had left for him. He had watched her message so many times he could recite it from memory, but tonight he wasn't replaying it. Instead, he was holding it like something sacred. He thought about the last words she had spoken in person. You shouldn't be here. 3. Human space changes people. She had said it like a warning, but her eyes, they hadn't been afraid. Maybe the warning wasn't about danger. Maybe it was about responsibility. The next day, Rayla entered his office. We need to talk, she said. Thrykol nodded for her to sit. I've been thinking about the probe, she began. "It wasn't random. That message was meant for you, which means the humans knew exactly where we were and what we were doing, and they let us leave." Thrykal leaned back, silent. "That means one of two things," Ryla continued. "Either they see us as no threat, or they want us to carry something back. Not an object, but knowledge. Influence." She didn't have to say what both of them were thinking. That influence was already working. Later, on the observation deck, Thrykal found Yurin staring out at the stars. "You've been having dreams again," he guessed. She smiled faintly. "Not dreams, memories, but they aren't mine." He didn't ask her to explain. He already knew the feeling. Yurin glanced at him. "Do you think it's bad? That we're different now?" Thrykal took his time answering. "I think it depends on what we do with it." That night, the dreams came stronger than ever. Thrykal saw a vast chamber filled with human leaders, speaking in urgent tones about an approaching storm, not a literal one, but a war, a crisis that would affect the entire galaxy. He saw alien delegates in the chamber, two species that had once kept their distance, now working beside humans. And in the center of it all, Mara, standing tall, speaking with a conviction that silenced the room. Her eyes locked with his four. "Just a moment," she said. "When it begins, you'll know what to do." He woke with his heart pounding. The next morning, Thrykal called the crew together. "I don't know exactly what's happening," he told them, "but I do know. This, our time in human space, has changed us. I believe it's given us something we might need in the days ahead. I also believe it's not by accident. We were meant to see something, to carry it back." Ryla spoke carefully. "Do you think that's why they let us leave?" "Yes," Thrykal said. "And when the time comes, we'll understand why." Later, alone in his quarters, Thrykal thought again about the distance between himself and Mara. It felt less impossible now. She was still far away, still hidden behind the walls of human space, but he no longer felt helpless. He had hope, real hope, that when they met again, it wouldn't be as two people separated by worlds, but as two allies working toward the same purpose. The distance was still there, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like a bridge waiting to be crossed. That night, as the Chrysanth sailed quietly through neutral space, Thrykal stood at the viewport and whispered the words. He now understood better than ever. Those who enter human territory never return the same, if they return at all. For the first time, he didn't see it as a warning. He saw it as a promise. Thrykal was not a superstitious being, but lately he had begun to feel like something invisible was guiding his steps. It had been weeks since the human probe was recovered, weeks since Mara's recorded message. The Chrysanth had resumed normal patrol duties, but nothing about life on the ship felt normal anymore. The crew still did their jobs, still followed orders, but beneath the routine, there was something new, an undercurrent of sharper focus, quicker decisions, and strange flashes of insight. It was in the way Coral could plot a hyperspace course through unstable regions without hesitation. It was in how Yurin could anticipate incoming messages before the comms even registered them. And it was in Thrykal himself, feeling more aware of patterns, more alert to possibilities he might have once ignored. But with the changes came the constant, quiet ache. Mara. She was the thread connecting all of this. Her absence felt heavier now, because he had seen her again. The distance between them was no longer a mystery. It was a choice she had made. A choice to stay in human space, to keep secrets from him. It hurt, even if he told himself there must be a reason. Sometimes he would replay her holomessage and pause it when she smiled. It wasn't the same as speaking to her, but it reminded him of the connection they once had. He wondered if she did the same, if somewhere on a human ship She kept a picture or recording of him. One quiet cycle, while the chrysanth drifted through. A survey sector, Ryla entered Thrycall's quarters. "You haven't been sleeping," she observed. "I've been thinking," he replied. "About her?" He nodded. There was no point in pretending otherwise. Ryla stepped closer. "3, you care about her. That's clear. But she's made it just as clear she can't come to you. If you want to reconnect, you might have to go to her." Thrycall frowned. That would mean re-entering human territory without orders. "And you think they'd stop you?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. He didn't answer. Because deep down, he wasn't sure they would. 2 days later, they picked up something unusual, a faint, encrypted signal on an old Academy frequency. It was weak, repeating only 3 words. "Follow the path." The signal was coming from just inside human space. The crew gathered in the briefing room to discuss it. "It could be a trap," Coral said. "It could be nothing," Yeren added. "It could be her," Ryla said simply. Thrycall felt every eye turn to him. That night, he lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. The logical part of him said to ignore the signal. They had no orders to investigate. It could be dangerous, even fatal. But another part of him, the part that had been hearing Mara's voice in his dreams, was certain it was meant for him. And if it was, then it might be his only chance to see her again. The next morning, Thrycall ordered a course change toward the signal. The crew didn't question him, but he could feel their tension. They knew they were heading for the border. Again, the closer they got, the more the signal stabilized. It was still only 3 words, but now there was a faint undertone, something like the rhythm of a heartbeat. When they finally crossed into human space, nothing happened. No fleets appeared. No warnings were broadcast. The stars looked the same. But Thrycall knew better now. Human territory didn't need to show its defenses to be dangerous. They followed the signal to the edge of a small, quiet system. Floating between 2 planets was a single satellite. Old, weathered, but clearly human. The crescent approached slowly. "It's transmitting directly to us," Yeren said, "not broadcasting. Like it knows who we are," Thrycall ordered. The satellite brought aboard. Inside its storage core was a single data file. When he opened it in his quarters, Mara's face appeared again, this time live, not recorded. "3, she said, her expression tight. "I don't have much time. You shouldn't have come, but I'm glad you did." "I followed your message," he said quietly. Her eyes softened. "I wanted you to. Listen, things are moving faster than I thought. I can't tell you everything yet, but there's something coming. And when it happens, the galaxy will need people who can bridge the gap between humans and everyone else." She hesitated. "You've changed, haven't you?" He nodded slowly. "Good," she said. "That's what I hoped. The change is part of the reason I couldn't just leave with you. I have work to finish here, but I need you to be ready. And I need you to trust me." "I do," he said. She smiled sadly. "Then this isn't goodbye. It's see you when it's time." The connection ended before he could reply. Thrycall sat there for a long time, staring at the blank screen. She was still far away, still untouchable. But now he knew she was thinking about him, that she wanted him to return one day. It wasn't the reunion he wanted, but it was enough to keep the hope alive. And as he looked out at the stars beyond his window, he whispered the words again, not as fear, but as quiet certainty. Those who enter human territory never return the same, if they return at all. And when he returned next, the chrysanth had been in human territory for 3 standard days since the satellite contact with Mara. Thrycall knew they couldn't stay much longer without drawing attention from either side of the border. The logical move was to turn back. But logic didn't quiet the ache in his chest. Mara's live message had been too short. He could still see the way her eyes softened when she said, "I'm glad you did." He wanted to hear her voice again, to ask the 100 questions he'd held back. But she was still out of reach, and he had no idea when or if he would. See her next dot when the chrysanth turned for the border, the star seemed calm, empty. But within a few hours, the crew began to notice something odd. A small blip appeared on the long-range scanners on manned human drones. 1, then 2, and 6. They didn't approach. They didn't signal. They just stayed at the edge of sensor range, keeping pace with the chrysanth. "Are they following us?" Yeren asked. "Yes," Ryla answered. "And they're making sure. We see them." It was unsettling, but Thrykall didn't order evasive maneuvers. The drones weren't hostile. They were watching. Every hour more appeared. Always at a distance. Always just enough for the crew to feel their presence. Corral muttered during navigation checks, "It's like they're hurting us." The thought stuck with Thrykall. If the drones wanted them gone, they could have forced it. If they wanted them destroyed, it would have already happened. So what was this? A warning? An escort? A test? That night, unable to sleep, Thrykall returned to the observation deck. The drones glowed faintly in the distance, their lights steady, unblinking. He thought of Mara's words, "Be ready." Was this part of being ready? Were the humans showing him something he didn't yet understand? Ryla joined him quietly. "You're thinking about her again." "Always," he admitted. "You could turn the ship around," she said. "Find her again before we leave." Thrykall shook his head. "Not yet. She told me to wait until it's time. If I ignore that, I might lose whatever trust she still has in me." Ryla studied him for a long moment. "You trust her a lot for someone who keeps pushing you away." "She's not pushing me away," he said softly. "She's holding a door open. I just can't walk through it yet." 2 days from the border, the drones shifted position. Instead of trailing the chrysanth, they moved ahead, forming a wide corridor in space. "They want us to follow," Yeren said. The corridor wasn't toward the border. It was slightly off course, toward a dense star cluster. Thrykall considered his options. He could refuse and continue toward neutral space, or he could follow and see where it led. The ache in his chest made the decision for him. The drones led them to a single, massive station, ancient in design, but clearly maintained. Human technology wrapped around alien architecture, like two civilizations had built it together. No transmissions came. No weapons locked on. The drones simply broke formation and drifted away. The chrysanth approached cautiously. "What is this place?" Corral whispered. "A meeting point." Thrykall guessed. Docking clamps engaged, and the airlock opened into a wide hall lit by soft golden light. Symbols lined the walls, some human, some from species Thrykall didn't recognize. At the center of the hall was a pedestal. On it, a small metal cube rested, no bigger than his hand. When Thrykall touched it, the cube unfolded into a hologram. Mara's face appeared again, but this time it wasn't live. "If you've made it here," her recorded voice said, "then you've been allowed to see part of what we're building. This place is old. It was once neutral ground during a war that nearly destroyed 3 civilizations. We've restored it not just for humans, but for anyone willing to stand with us when the storm comes." She paused, her expression softening. I know you're frustrated. I know you want answers now, but this isn't about just you and me anymore. This is bigger. I promise when the time comes, you'll understand why I've kept my distance. Until then, hold on to that hope. It's what makes you who you are." The hologram faded. Back on the chrysanth, the crew debated what to do with the stations. Location. Thrykall ordered it kept secret from the Vorthan command. He knew they wouldn't understand, They left the station and resumed their course to the border. The drones did not return, but the feeling of being watched remained, not in a threatening way, but in the way a teacher watches a student take their first steps towards something important. When the chrysanth finally crossed into neutral space, Thrykall stood on the bridge, looking at the stars. The ache in his chest was still there, but now it carried something else purpose. He still didn't know when he would see Mara again, but she was guiding him, piece by piece, toward that moment, and when it came, he would be ready. He looked at the crew, each of them carrying the quiet change human space had left in them. Then, almost to himself, he whispered, "Those who enter human territory never return the same, if they return at all." And he smiled, because now he knew that was exactly the point. 3 cycles had passed since the chrysanth left human territory. The days felt heavy for Thrykall. He went through the motions meetings, reports, system checks, but his thoughts were always elsewhere. In every quiet moment, Mara's recorded message returned to him. The way she had said, "Hold on to that hope," played in his mind like a quiet melody. But holding on was harder than she made it sound. At first, he had told himself the ache would fade, that the distance between them was only physical. But it wasn't true. The more days passed without contact, the more he felt her slipping away, like starlight fading as a planet turns. He tried sending small transmissions, coded so the Vorthan command wouldn't notice. They were short, harmless things. A line about a new nebula they had scanned, a joke about Yaren's cooking, a quiet "still thinking of you." He never got a reply. Ryla noticed the change in him. One evening, she joined him in the mess hall, where he sat staring at an untouched meal. "You're not eating again," she said. "Not hungry. Not hungry. Or not here?" Thrykall gave her a faint smile. "Both." Ryla sighed and sat across from him. "You've been like this since we left. I'm not saying you shouldn't care about her, but maybe you should accept she's made her choice." "I can't," he said simply. "If I stop trying, I lose something important. Not just her, part of myself." The next week, during a routine patrol near the neutral zone, the chrysanth picked up a faint distress signal. It was weak, almost buried in background noise, but Thrykall froze when he heard it. It was human code. And not just human, it was her code. "Mara," he whispered. The bridge crew turned to him. "You know this signal?" Yaren asked. "Yes," Thrykall said, forcing his voice to stay steady. "It's from someone I trust. We're changing course. Captain, this will take us close to restricted territory," Koral warned. "I know." As they moved toward the signal, Thrykall's heart pounded. The coordinates led to an abandoned mining moon, one long strip of resources and life. The chrysanth landed in a shallow crater. The signal was still there, but faint and irregular, like it had been damaged. Thrykall took a small landing party and made his way across the dusty surface. Inside a collapsed storage building, they found the source, a battered comm unit, jury-rigged to a solar panel. It wasn't broadcasting a distress call anymore, but a message file. Thrykall knelt beside it and pressed play. Mara's voice filled the small space. "3, if you're hearing this, then you came. I knew you would. I can't tell you exactly where I am, but I'm in trouble. Something is moving out here, something dangerous. I'm helping people get out before it reaches them. I couldn't risk contacting you directly. This was the safest way. If you still trust me, meet me where the drift line crosses Orion's gate. You'll understand when you see it. And 3, she hesitated, don't let them tell you humans are only trouble. You've seen who we are. You know why we fight. Hold on to that." The message ended. Thrykall stood in silence. The ache in his chest had turned into something sharper purpose. She was alive. She needed him, but going to her meant crossing into a sector forbidden to Vorthan ships. If command found out, they'd strip him of his rank. Maybe worse, dot back. Aboard the Chrysanth, he called his senior officers together. "I'm going after her," he said. Yurin frowned. "Captain, that's suicide. You'll be breaking orders, crossing a war risk zone, and chasing someone who might not even be there when we arrive." "She be there," Thrykall said firmly. "And I'm not asking you to risk yourselves. Anyone who doesn't want to come can disembark at the next neutral port." No one moved. Ryla leaned back in her chair. "If you're going, we're going. Someone has to make sure you don't do anything too noble and stupid alone." They plotted a course in silence. Every star along the way felt like it was drawing him closer, not just to Mara, but to something he couldn't name. Halfway to Orion's gate, they were intercepted by 2 Vorthan patrol ships. A voice crackled over the comm. "Chrysanth, you are deviating from assigned patrol routes. State your destination." Thrykall kept his tone neutral. "Emergency escort mission." "Destination?" "Classified." "There." Was a pause, then the voice returned, sharper. "Turn back immediately. This is a direct order." The crew looked at him. Thrykall's claws curled against the armrest. Every part of his training screamed at him to obey. But then he thought of Mara's voice, telling him to meet her. He thought of the station, where she had shown him a glimpse of her world's purpose. He thought of the hope she had asked him to hold on to. He cut the channel. The patrol ships followed for a while, then fell back.